Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Mentzel.
And we are back. We're going to start with Ndsu baseball. So this previous weekend, they had a 3-game series against Oral Roberts. I mean, the team they battled with last season. And, hey, they showed why they showed this series why they topped them last season.
And I predicted last week that Ndsu was going to win 2 of the 3 games out of this series, and they did just that.
Yep, this previous weekend, they traveled to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ndsu kind of emphasized how to bounce back because the first game, they didn't have much success. So on Friday, they lost 10-4. Oral Roberts got off to a fast start, pushing 3 runs across 4 hits in the opening inning to create a 3-0 lead, right? And then they stretched the lead 6-0 after scoring 3 runs in the second inning. The Bison responded with 4 runs in the third to cut the deficit down to 2. After Brock Anderson had an RBI single before Drew Sackett followed up with 2 RBI doubles. And then Oral Roberts entered back in the bottom of the inning, scoring 3 runs to make it 9-4. Ndsu made one final comeback attempt, in the 7th, loading up the bases, but hey, the Golden Eagles had other plans. Ndsu totaled 10 hits as a team with 6 different players contributing at least 1. Senior Charlie Hesse led the Bison with a game high of 3 hits and 1 run. What are some of the other stats from that game?
Drew Sackett also had a hit, and he had 2 RBIs from it, and Peter Brookshaw had 2 hits with an RBI as well.
And then on Saturday, they had a double header, a new day, a fresh start, and the Bison really took that into account. They won the first game 2-1, not a high-scoring game, but they still got the dub. Oral Roberts, they grabbed the lead in the second inning, 1-0, and then Ndsu responded in the third inning with Caden Schwabe scoring a run to make it 1-1. Both teams battled through 3 scoreless innings until Ndsu was able to load up the bases in the 7th, and Garrett Hill hit a pitch sending Logan Williams home, and then it made the score 2-1, and that was the last score of the game. Cade Feeney had 5 strikeouts with 1 walk and 1 run over 6.1 innings, and then Jake Drew closed out the final inning and didn't allow a run or a hit. So they did pretty good. Caden Schwabe led that game with 2 hits and 1 run. What are some of the other stats from that game?
Caden Schwabe having those 2 hits with the run. Brock Anderson also had a hit with an RBI, and you can't mention Cade Feeney's performance enough, getting those 5 strikeouts in 6 innings, and that's really what saved the game. And it's also got to be a little deflating for Oral Roberts to lose a game on a pitch that hits one of the batters for North Dakota State. I mean, you already have the bases loaded and you end up hitting someone. That's very unfortunate.
And then for the second game on Saturday, they picked up even a bigger dub, winning 10-2. The Bison came out with Charlie Hesse hitting an RBI double to score Drew Sackett to make it 1-0 in the first inning. And then Ndsu went crazy, scoring 6 runs in the second inning to go up 7-1. Will Bush, Terrell Higgins started out the frames, each scoring on an error, and then Garrett Hill followed that up with the RBI double. Both Brock Anderson, Peter Brookshaw added RBI doubles before Charlie Hesse got an RBI single. They came back in the 5th inning with Terrell Higgins and Will Bush would score 1 run off a walk to make the lead to 9-1, and then Oral Roberts would score late in the 8th inning, and then Ndsu would get that one in the 9th. Way to bounce back from Friday's game. I mean, doubleheader sweep. Oral Roberts is not a pushover. This is a contender, especially from last season. How do you feel this series went for the Bison?
It went very good, and considering in that last game we had great individual performances by Drew Sackett, who went 3 of 5 at the plate with an RBI and a run. He also went Hesse also went 2 of 4 with 2 RBIs, and then Evan Sankey picked up the win, tossing 3 strikeouts over 6 innings. And Tristan Rourke earned his 5th save of the season with 3 strikeouts over the final 3 innings. And that's kind of been the story of the season so far. It's been getting a lot of hits, very good individual performances there, but also the pitching. The pitching has been very incredible, especially Rourke, who 5 saves already this year. 5 saves this early in the season. That is a key thing to have at this point in the season. If you can have a pitcher who can make saves like that on a consistent basis, you got yourselves
especially against hard teams like Oral Roberts. Ndsu connected 15 hits with 6 different players. So we're talking about a realm of different players, going crazy. So this team has a bright future. I think it's still going to be Oral Roberts and Ndsu at the end of the day in the championship. What do you think?
I mean, it definitely seems to be that way. Oral Roberts has dropped the 3rd, though, in the conference, however. Omaha jumped up the 2nd after this series. So it'll be very interesting to see how Oral Roberts bounces back from a series like this. I mean, we can believe that they will. Yeah. They are still a very good team, but Ndsu has been doing an outstanding job so far this year, and I would hope that it can continue.
Yep, NDSU is now 21-12 overall and 93 in the conference. Pretty good. They will travel to Brookings, South Dakota to play a 3-game series against SDSU. The first pitch is today at 3. SDSU is 16-17 overall, 75 in the conference, which is 4th. This team also could be a competitor. They killed Oral Roberts last month, but beginning of the season, we'll probably let that be bygones, right? But I'm still not sleeping on this squad. I'm thinking NDSU will do what they did against Oral Roberts, win 2 games but lose 1. How do you feel about this?
Anytime NDSU and SDSU play, it doesn't matter what sport, it's going to be competitive. It doesn't matter what the team's records are. It's the big rivalry. Now, I do feel like NDSU, this was a great series for them this past weekend, winning 2 out of those 3 games. I feel like NDSU will copy that performance. I don't think they'll quite get the sweep, but I do believe they will win 2 of the 3 games once again.
Speaking of SDSU and basketball and the championship, let's put that together. There is 2 players that entered the transfer portal that committed recently, right?
Yep, for basketball. Tyree Edie, he's heading to North Texas, and then Jarius Cook is heading to Jacksonville University.
Yeah, we wish the best for those guys. They were really good players for NDSU. It's unfortunate they couldn't get 1 more before they left, but it's okay. And then moving on to softball, the softball team had a tough doubleheader this weekend, not only with SDSU, but with the weather too. Like, come on. I was hoping NDSU could sneak in at least 1 run, but on Sunday, the game canceled, so they couldn't bounce back, but let's get into the tournament, right? So they lost the first game on Saturday, 8-1. Despite the final score, NDSU held their own the whole game. They went into 3 extra innings, a total of 10, right? It was a true pitching battle in Game 1. Both pitchers were dominant, pitching 8 scoreless innings. You can't ask for a better performance, especially when it's SDSU and they're at the top of the conference. SDSU would take the lead at the top of the 9th with a solo home run, and then the Bison responded with Cameron Maycutt singling Malik Gates to tie the game 1-1 in the 9th. So you can see that they really wanted it, but then in the 10th inning, SDSU showed why they're conference leaders. They scored 7 runs. Talk about pressure, talk about getting the job done. And then at the bottom of the inning, when it was NDSU time to go, of course, this is the bad luck in my opinion. They have a more than 2 hours delay from the weather, but they had a chance to go to the drawing board, figure out how can we win this game, at least tie this game to go to more innings, But unfortunately, NDSU couldn't get the job done. Paige Vargas allowed just 1 run in the first 8 innings on 5 hits and 4 strikeouts. She did good in this game. What were some other stats from that game?
Cameron Maycutt also had 2 hits with an RBI, and then Molly Gates, Carly Gachis, Avery Weissong, and Sierra Jensen all had 1 hit each. And, the thing you talked about the weather, a tornado warning is really going to put the wind out of any softball game's sails.
But it's just, of course, when NDSU time to go, at the bottom of the inning, we get that delay. After the momentum shift with SDSU 7 runs, it's crazy. But then the second game, it was tough. They also lost the second game 8-1. Game 2 started out the same way. Both teams battled through 5 scoreless innings. SDSU would get 2 runs in the 6th inning to take the lead, but then NDSU would only answer with run on the bottom of that inning. SDSU continued their momentum, with scoring 6 runs in the 7th inning to put the game away. Cameron Maycutt led the Bison with 2 hits and 1 run. What were some other stats from that game?
Nicole Lycia also had 2 hits and an RBI, and Des Cardenas also had a hit as well.
Right. NDSU is now 25-19 and 7-6 in the conference. So if we're just looking at, their overall, right, in the conference, they're kind of struggling so far, right? And they have a 3-game series against UND this weekend and Grand Forks, even though it's away. It's kind of speculation, too, because I'm hearing that their field is not really that good, so they don't know whether to move the game down here. But UND is not good either. And it's always, and I love the chances to beat UND, especially with the football. It's always good to beat UND. And I think they can do it. And I think this tournament, this series will be a refresher, just to get your confidence back. But we'll see if they even play the game, because they're saying both fields, it might not work out, but we'll see.
It's been a tough last couple of series for the softball team, and that's just because of the teams that they faced recently. You got Kansas City and then you had SDSU. So they've had some hard teams to face recently. And UND is not a team to exactly sleep on, though, either. I know the record is only 3-12 in conference, but you do have to remember, kind of like SDSU, whenever UND and NDSU play in any sport, they're always going to play each other as hard as they possibly can. I do believe NDSU will win the series. They will sweep the series 3-0, but I do believe in at least one of those games, UND will not make it easy, and they will make it close.
This is why I think NDSU has the edge over UND. UND is at the bottom of the conference. What's that like? Ignore that one. They're at the bottom of the conference, right? And NDSU is doing good. I mean, they're kind of shaky after this series. Yeah, it's SDSU. NDSU. But I'm thinking NDSU has the edge over UND. Like you said, I do agree with you. When it's conference leaders, they find a way to get at least one win, even if they're bad. Just because they're rivals is the reason why they're going to play that extra effort. But I'm thinking NDSU will take this one if they play, hoping they play, because it's been crazy with their season with the weather and the cancellations, even with baseball. Baseball had, if I'm not mistaken, haven't played one home game yet. So it's been crazy with the weather. But make sure you guys tune in to that series. When we come back, we're going to dive into the end of women's golf in their season and men's and women's track and field. Stay tuned.
No kid deserves to go hungry. But try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today, so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
My name is Becky Parker, and I'm a news anchor at WDAY-TV. I graduated from NDSU in 2010 with a degree in journalism, broadcasting, and mass communication technologies, and then I had an emphasis on broadcasting. Principles of broadcast production and advanced broadcast production. Those were favorites because they were the most relevant for career experience. You're calling people for interviews, you're writing an article. It doesn't just feel like an assignment, it's like actually doing it. I was the news director for the first full semester of the Bison Information Network. The BIN advisor here was very much invested in me to actually have a career in broadcasting. He helped me get my internship and my first job. The people in NDSU's Department of Communication are really interested and helpful in getting students the connections that they need in order to get a job beyond school.
The Ndsu Bookstore, where every true fan and alum goes to get their pride on. Gear up with a variety of high-quality t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, and more. Made by top-of-the-line brands like Under Armour, Nike, and CI Sport to help you show off your Bison pride. The Ndsu Bookstore has everything you need in your 2 favorite colors, green and gold.
And we're back. Let's dive into women's golf. So the women's golf team traveled to Newton, Kansas for the Summer League Championship, and they did okay. They finished 5th out of 9 teams. How did they do?
Well, individually, the Bison finished 5th, like you said, after carding rounds of 316, 306, and 307 for a 3-round total of 929. Denver won the Summit League Championship by 21 strokes over the second-place Oral Roberts with a total score of 871, and then SDSU came in 3rd. Catherine Monty finished in 16th place, notching rounds of 82, 73, and 73. She had 3 birdies and hit par on each of the final 7 holes in round 3. Yep. Joe Baranchik, she had a overall total of 231. She finished in 22nd place. Lexi Giolat had a 235 final score. She cracked the top 25 and came in tied for 25th place. Leah Scar with a score of 236 overall finished tied for 27th place. And Elise Hoven with a score of 243 overall rounded out the group tied for 35th place.
Yeah, and that was the end of their season. They won only 1 tournament the whole season, but like you said, they were doing good in the beginning, right? And then at the end, they kind of started slipping.
They had a 2nd and a 1st right off the bat, and it was definitely looking very promising. However, the team never really had a horrible tournament by any means. A lot of the tournaments after that, it was right down the middle. Like, they weren't at the front, but they weren't in the back at all. They were right down the middle, right around 6th, 7th most of the time that they played, which is not bad by any means, especially considering a lot of the players in this team are very young and have a lot of years left with this team. That definitely shows you some promise for the future of this program right here.
Yep. Good job, ladies, to your season. Now, the men's will begin the Summer League Championship on May 1st, so can't wait to see that. Want to see Jack Johnson, Brock Winter go crazy. But moving on to track and field, so both teams competed at the South Dakota Challenge, and they did pretty good. For the men's, Jacob Roeder ran an outdoor personal best of 1 minute and 49 seconds, taking first in the 800 meter. He now ranks 4th fastest in NDSU history. senior Trevor Otterdahl run the hammer throw, the big man, throwing 66.38 meters to win the event. He moved up to 4th best in NDSU history. It seems like he's moving up every week. You got freshman Caden Passion win the discus throw, throwing 57.73 meters. He moved up to 2nd to all time. Wow, freshman, he's doing his business. Trevor Otterdahl won the shot put with a throw of 18.63 meters. The big man again.
It's pretty obvious when the Otterdahls are throwing, you're going to get a high score there.
That whole family tree is built of bodybuilders. What's wrong with them, you know? How did the women do?
Senior Amy Phillips won the hammer throw, posting a toss of 67.41 meters. She remains ranked among the top 10 in the NCAA this season as well. Alyssa Melvin was first place in the long jump and the triple jump with jumps of 6.06 meters and 12.54 meters. Haley Schmidt took first place in the javelin with a throw of 41.50 meters to lead an NDSU sweep of the top 3 places in that event. Maggie Steffen and Taylor Langang were the top, other 2 who rounded out the top 3. Alyssa Melvin won the long jump. And Amanda Anderson claimed the shot put title with a throw of 15.14 meters as well.
Yeah, both teams started competing yesterday at the Drake Relays in Des Moines, Iowa. You know, hopefully they'll get some more dubs, break some more move up in the NDSU all-time list. You know what I mean? They will be competing till Saturday, so let's see what happens.
My roommate and I kind of talked about NDSU and sports recently, and one thing that we mentioned was, yeah, football is a sport that everybody thinks of when they think of NDSU nationally, but track and field is such an underrated program at this university. There are so many legendary performances that come out from the track and field program that nobody really seems to know or talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, this school is based around football. You know, that's number one. And then basketball, because even though we lose in the championship about 2 years in a row, we're not going to talk about that. But basketball's next on the list, you know. So track and field gets left in the wind, even though you're right. We do have good runners and we break records like every meet. But you know, it's all about popularity. It's about what people like, you know. But yeah, I do agree with you. We do have some great runners. But when we come back, we're going to dive into some national sports. Stay tuned.
I'm your friend.
I am your coworker.
I'm your neighbor.
There's no set person that defines who needs help in North Dakota.
I play cards with your grandmother every week.
Hunger is becoming more and more widespread and more known because there are people standing up and saying, hey, this can't happen. We can't be having this in our state, in our community.
I sit next to you in math class.
It's proving that they're learning better and they're not coming to school so hungry on Monday morning. We're engaging them and we're helping them learn. I mean, people want to help their fellow citizens, and in this food bank, in this agency, that is exactly what's happening, is people really, truly care.
I'm here.
I'm here to change the faces.
I'm here to change the faces of hunger.
One kid, one mentor, plus one moment can unlock limitless potential. One heart-to-heart, one inside joke. 30,000 youth are waiting. Be there for one of them. It's time. Become a big today.
And we're back. Now we're going to get into NFL draft. It started last night, the first round, and it was pretty exciting. We saw a lot of drip, a lot of change, iced out change, and it was pretty exciting.
For any NFL fan, it's the most wonderful time of the year besides the Super Bowl if your team's in it.
Yep. For the first round, right? I liked it. You know, the first pick, you know, we get Trayvon Walker was selected by the Jaguars. Defensive end, the dog from Georgia, you know. There was some speculations they should have went with Aiden Hutchinson. You know, I'm thinking they made no mistake. They're both dogs. They're saying Aiden Hutchinson because his numbers or whatnot was better than whatever. They're both good players. They're going to have Walker is a dog. That's one. He's going to produce anywhere he goes.
Yeah, it didn't bother me which way the Jaguars went with this. A lot of people were thinking Aiden Hutchinson right off the bat. I thought that too last week. But then Trayvon Walker's been really climbing up draft boards a lot recently, and You know, and either way, like you said, I feel like both of these players can contribute a lot to whatever defense they're on. Trayvon Walker just ended up being the first overall pick for the Jaguars, and they desperately need help on the defensive side down there.
Yeah, but speaking of Aiden Hutchinson, he was selected number 2 overall by the Lions. The Lions need some help. You know, it's the Lions. They need some help anywhere they can get. And what more to do it with an outstanding player like Aiden Hutchinson? There's a reason why he broke Michigan's sack record. You know, he's an outstanding player, a polished player. You know, he's going to do good for the Lions.
Yep, and the Lions, you know, they've been making a lot of great moves recently, and this is just another example of them being finally, it looks like, on the right track for once. Aiden Hutchinson, absolutely great job. Kind of reminds you of a little bit of a Joey or a Nick Bosa type of guy, a J.J. Watt type of guy, getting around the edge, making pressure all the time. He'll make a living nightmare for the rest of the NFC North quarterbacks for quite some time.
And then for the 3rd overall pick, Derek Stingley Jr. was selected by the Texans. Now, this is my guy. I love this guy. In coverage, man, this is what you call an it factor, right? This is a guy that's going to change the course of the game. Big time players make big time plays, and he's one of those guys. The Texans are really going to like this guy, especially when you got him going against dogs like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in practice. It only just makes him better. I'm thinking this guy, mark my words, look out for this guy next season.
Yeah, but you're talking about Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. He comes out of that pool of LSU players who've done very well, part of that 2020 squad. But the only thing about Stingley for me is he climbed up draft boards a lot recently. He was another guy who really climbed recently. The only worry I have for him is not for him specifically, but for the team that drafted him. The Texans haven't really had a star secondary player in a long time. I mean, granted, I don't know they really ever had a star player be in the secondary. So maybe he'll be the exception to it. They definitely need help back there. Their pass defense was terrible last year, so they're going to need some help back there. So I think it was a good pick.
And then speaking of corners, Sas Gardner was selected 4th overall by the Jets. I mean, the name says it itself. He plays good, looks good while doing it. You know, Sauce. He was drippy last night too. You see both those chains. He got the sauce chains and the sauce bottle. He was looking shiny. But you know, this is a good player. You know, the Jets need to improve their roster, and they really did good this draft too. And I think you agree with that, right?
Oh yeah, the Jets I would say they probably did the best out of anybody in the draft last night. They had 3 first-round picks, and starting out there was Sauce. And the only concern I have about Sauce is the fact that he went the wrong way heading towards the draft stage. He ended up having to turn back around.
I saw it.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I hope this isn't like a microcosm of his NFL career or something.
No, but he didn't give up. They say he didn't give up not one receiving touchdown in his 3 years at Carolina, and that's pretty good.
At Cincinnati,
Yeah, I mean Cincinnati.
Yep.
Bugging. Yeah. And then for the 5th overall pick, Kayvon, I always get his last name wrong. Please help me out.
Thibodeau.
Kayvon
Thibodeau.
But selected by the Giants. You know, the Giants wasn't playing around this round. They really was ready to stock up on their roster.
Nope, this was the best pick the Giants could have made, and I really was worried that the Giants weren't going to make this pick for reasons of how their executive branch has not done very well with drafting recently, Daniel Jones, but this was absolutely a great first round for them, getting Kayvon Thibodeau with that first overall pick. They need a face of the defense. They have not had one of those in a long time, ever since 2011 with guys like Justin Tuck and JPP. But those guys are gone now, and they need somebody on that defensive side. So Thibodeau, I feel like, will fill a great space.
They also got Even Neal out of Alabama, so they're really like trying to get as many pieces as possible. Now, I don't know why they're trying so hard because the Cowboys are in that division.
The only question I have for the Giants right now is the quarterback situation. They didn't pick up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option, so it seems like this will probably be his last year there. Do they go quarterback later on? We'll find out tonight.
And then speaking of the Cowboys, let's just get into our teams real quick. There's no secret I'm a Cowboys fan, and you're a Packers fan. Cheesehead, we're not even going to. But the Cowboys selected Tyler Smith from offensive tackle from Tulsa. You know, I liked it. You know, we needed to rebuild our offensive line, and he's one of the top guys. I was fine with it. You know, we lost 2 starting guards. You know, I think it'll be a great start for the Cowboys.
Yeah, we talked about last week that you guys were probably going to go offensive line in the first round. We were talking about possibly Zion Johnson, the guard out of Boston College. Instead, you guys went for the Lyle Collins replacement at right tackle, and you guys got there Tyler Smith. Yeah, I think it'll be a perfect replacement. He reminds me a lot of Lyle Collins, so I think that's definitely a great pick for you guys.
Now, I know my team didn't disappoint me, but for your team...
What about my team?
Your first pick, okay. It was a good pick, you know, out of Georgia, dog, right?
Quay Walker.
Quay Walker.
Inside linebacker.
But your second pick, You need a pass catcher. You get another defensive guy.
Not yet.
Who is Aaron going to throw to?
Nope.
What are you doing?
Not yet.
Christian Watson. We love Christian Watson. He didn't get drafted last night. I'm so sorry. You know whose fault it is? It's the Packers' fault.
Nope.
There was all talk about the Packers.
Fault. Chiefs could have gotten him too.
You just passed out any pass rusher. Like, what is wrong?
So, let me tell you.
Okay.
The defense, we had a couple of holes that we still need to fix. Besides Devondre Campbell at the linebacker position, we literally have nobody. We almost lost Chris Barnes to free agency. Oren Burks is gone. We literally have nobody at the inside linebacker position. Okay. So we needed somebody to help Devondre Campbell there. That's why we got Quay Walker.
Okay.
Meanwhile, it's kind of the same thing why we got Devontae Wyatt. And I was very high on Devontae Wyatt these last few weeks. I really wanted us to get him.
Okay.
Because he's an interior defensive tackle, 340, athletic freak. He is very fast as well. We needed help in the interior D-line with Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark is our only interior D-lineman that we really have anymore that has created problems with for run games.
Okay. My thing is the balance, right? You picked up a defensive guy, right?
Yep.
You can't have them all, right? You need a pass catcher.
And we'll get one in the second round tonight.
You think so?
Yep.
I mean, you're lucky because Christian Watson's still there. So you got lucky.
There. Maybe and we have draft capital to trade up tonight to get one of those receivers.
And maybe you guys do have a game plan because, to be honest, they did leave out a couple of receivers out, so you guys do have a chance.
Well, some things were being released about the game plan, and there are some rumors that the only receiver the Packers were willing to look for in the first round was Jameson Williams, but he was taken by the Lions with the 12th overall pick. So after that, we said, nope, we're not getting a wide receiver tonight because we're not trading up. They made it clear that they weren't trading up last night.
Yep, and speaking of trades, A.J. Brown was traded to the Eagles last night. Now, I got a lot of texts that the Cowboys are going down next season because of the Giants want to make moves now, the Eagles. How do you think the Eagles will perform now that you're joining Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith?
It's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, the Eagles, it definitely was not a team I was expecting them to go to, but it will make that offense better, I definitely believe. Listen, Jalen Reagor had to be replaced on the offense, and A.J. Brown is an excellent replacement for him. But this just harkens a lot of questions towards Jalen Hurts. This is kind of his make it or break it year. He's got the talent now. He has to do something with it this year.
That's what I was about to say. This worries me because the Eagles, now that they picked up, Jordan Davis, they are looking good. They are looking good, right, for the Cowboys. So my thing is, Jalen Hurts has no excuses. He now has two dogs, not only Devontae Smith but AJ. Yep. He has no excuses.
The defense is still getting better and better.
Yeah, the defense is getting better.
They got Fletcher Cox back. So.
Exactly. So if he performs, the Eagles and the Cowboys are going to be neck and neck, and I'm going to have a tough time again. Because with the Eagles, we blew them out of the water last season, but now they're tired of that, apparently. So how do you think the Cowboys and the Eagles will match up next season?
It's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, I don't know exactly. I want to see more from the offseason from both teams. Yeah, it looks like the Eagles are gaining a lot of talent right now, but that doesn't exactly mean everything. Especially with the Eagles, they've been dealing a lot with injuries these last few years, especially before the season even starts. So we still have to see what's going to happen with that. But that wasn't the only trade that we had, though, the A.J. Brown. The Marquise Hollywood Brown traded from the Ravens to the Cardinals. Yeah. Now, this is going to be very interesting for the Arizona Cardinals, considering they already have DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah. So now it's kind of the same thing we talked about with Jalen Hurts with Kyler Murray. No excuses this year, man.
And I want to point out, it seems like Lamar Jackson was just totally out of the loop. Which is weird because they're best friends, essentially.
And Hollywood was not one of the receivers we were talking about wanting a trade.
Yeah. So I know he's just confused. That's definitely going to mess up the offense, the game plan and whatnot. Maybe lessen Lamar's chances of going to the playoffs or whatnot. I just feel bad for him at this point. He's already trying to prove something because he was drafted later, whether him being a black quarterback, if he'll win or whatever. I just feel bad for the man.
Yeah, it's definitely very disappointing for Lamar, and especially considering, I don't know if all the Ravens' struggles recently have been his fault. He has been dealing with injuries. Last year, he dealt with a whole bunch of them. Yep. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the Ravens this year now. I mean, they do have receivers on that team still. They still got Rashad Bateman, but I mean, it's definitely a loss in talent of that offense. Now, it was Hollywood.
Yeah. Now, I know you're saying you don't know how that's going to play out with DeAndre Hopkins, but they Hollywood going to the Cardinals will add so much more speed. Kelly Murray. No, come on,
it's
Hollywood.
Gonna be dangerous.
It's going to be dangerous. He could be at the slot. DeAndre.
But what I said for the Cardinals, though, is that they've struggled a lot, and that's because more coaching. And they just extended their coach and GM 5 years, which I don't think they should have done. I think they should have fired both of them. But this is kind of like Kyler Murray, like we said for Jalen Hurts. This is your year to prove it now. You got the talent again.
Yeah.
You got to do something with it now.
Yeah, so draft, the second round and the third round is tonight. You know, we'll see what your team does. We'll see what my team does. You know, do you think your team is going to get a receiver in round 2?
I do believe so. Whether we trade up for one tonight or we stay in our spot, I would think we'd have to trade up, because if we stay in our spots where we're at right now, the only 3 receivers I really want us to get right now are Christian Watson, obviously, at number 1, but I also wouldn't mind getting Sky Moore or Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia.
Okay.
So, but I don't see any of those 3 making it to that far, so I feel like we're going to have to trade up.
All right, I think we need a receiver. I also want another offensive guard, but we'll see what happens. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
I'm Dash Mentzel.
And we'll be back. Our last episode is
season finale.
Season finale. We'll see you guys next time.